Welcome back to Dragon Army Books. My name is Dustin, and this is the final video in this little mini-series we've been doing about must-read books. Go back and check the annotations and all the videos that were preceding this one. We dealt with 5 classic sci-fi books that you must read, 5 modern sci-fi books that you must read. The last video was 5 classic fantasy books you must read, and this final video is all about the 5 must-read modern fantasy books that you've got to read or else. Book number 1 in this list, but in no particular order, is called The Eye of the World. It is the first book in the Wheel of Time series. Most fantasy fans, at least of modern fantasy fans, know and love this series. Guess what? I have never read one before. I had always seen this book in the library growing up, middle school, maybe even high school, but I stayed away from it because it was intimidating. It was extensive in length, and now the series is multiple books long. But right now, as I'm recording this video, I am well over halfway through this book. The story takes the reader into a world full of magic and politics and monsters and war and history. There is a lot to learn, a lot of names in the opening chapters, probably 20 to 30 names. It is dense, but it is rewarding. It harkens back to kind of classic literature. It's got a lot of those tropes that you've probably come to know, maybe love or hate, or love to hate, hate to love in fantasy literature. But because we've got a farm boy who is prophesied to become the hero, right? All of those things, but it subverts that when that prophesied boy is known to slaughter all that are close to him. So that leaves an eerie tone, and that's just the first subverted expectation here as a huge, massive, realized world unfolds in front of you. In many ways, this story feels very classic in nature, yet it is more of the modern genre. Robert Jordan has created a massive world here, and the series concludes by actually author Brandon Sanderson, which we'll talk about now. I love Brandon Sanderson. That is no surprise to anyone that's been on this channel for any length of time. I have read all of his works in the Cosmere to date, and books outside of his Cosmere as well. The one that I chose for you to read is actually Mistborn, or The Final Empire. I thought about the Stormlight Archive, you know, the first book there, but the one that I think that I would currently suggest you to read from Brandon Sanderson, if you're going to read any, is Mistborn. It's where the evil Lord Ruler rules over the land with an iron fist, and society is strictly divided between the haves and the have-nots. But the brilliant thief Kelsier gathers together a crew that is going to try to thwart the efforts of the Lord Ruler. The whole world is actually set up in a really cool way. Brandon Sanderson said, you know what, the Dark One always gets the short end of the stick. Someone comes around and defeats them so easily. And so here he's saying, what would a society, what would a world look like if the Dark One would have won? And so that's how we start. And then we've got the thief Kelsier along with his crew that are going to do like a heist to try to overcome. But there is a robust magic system here. When I first heard about it, that it's digesting metals, I was like, that's stupid, that's disgusting. But now it's probably the most realized and best handled magic systems in any fantasy book that I've ever read. I don't know if I stand by that, but I just said it. I love this story. I love the twists and turns. It's still early in Brandon Sanderson's career, but it's when he's really starting to find his stride, and you can feel it. The characters I absolutely love from the first book to the last, but if I'm suggesting, again, I would probably suggest different things to different people, but if I'm saying there's a one must-read Brandon Sanderson novel to be in this list, I would say it's Mistborn, The Final Empire. Now, one of the best told stories of all time is The Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. The reason why I said it's one of the best told stories is because you cannot come to this novel with the same expectations that you do when you come to other fantasy novels. You're going to be disappointed. You're not going to enjoy it because it is a slower pace, but it is of a young man telling his story. It centers around a compelling character named Kvothe, who is recalling his younger years as he's a student of magic and he's becoming a budding musician. It's a kind of a D&D campaign, but centered around one character that is the bard. Usually most of these stories are told around a warrior, right? Or a swordsman or something like that. This is told around the story of a bard. There's some epic fantasy, kind of deep mystery magic in the background, and there's a lot of question marks left at the end of the first story and the second. The trilogy has not yet been complete, but the story so far is absolutely riveting, with a fascinating magic system, a fascinating cast of characters, and again, the way that this story is told is what kind of sends it over the edge to becoming such an impeccable fantasy book and fantasy series. Many people stay away from it and have ill will, I guess, or thoughts towards this author and the series because he hasn't completed it in our timing yet, but he's still got time and he's wanting to give us a great conclusion to what has already been a great series. The prose is beautiful. The prose is epic. The story is wonderful. It's very different than the standard fantasy, but it's one that is most certainly a must-read. Next is a book called Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I understand that the cover is not going to do it justice, but the story is absolutely wonderful. It is a rare first-person gem that is an incredible blend of the best traits that both classic and modern fantasy have to offer. It is a compelling story about Fitz Farseer, a bastard assassin. And I don't just, like I've said before, I don't just throw those words out carelessly. Both of those are central to the story that's being told and to the character of Fitz Farseer. Assassin's Apprentice received the British Fantasy Award nomination for Best Novel when it was released, and rightfully so. It is, again, first person, and it is told in a weird pace. It's actually very comparable to The Name of the Wind, but we've got a totally different character who's not a bard like in The Name of the Wind, but is being trained as an assassin. And there are some really cool starts to magic systems here that are revealed but not gone into depth in the first book in the Farseer trilogy. But as the trilogy continues, not only the character expands and the characters surrounding him, but the magic system and the world and the politics, all of those things. It is a beautiful, if not stereotypical European fantasy setting, but a story unlike any other. And then finally, I debated, and I won or lost the debate, depending on which way you look at it, with Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. I get it, the author sucks, but her books don't. At least her Harry Potter books don't. This book really hit the spot for 10-year-old Dustin when I was young and getting into reading. When I entered into the magical world of Hogwarts, Hogsmeade, all of the others, like many kids my age right at the time, it blew us away for all the right reasons. It is an incredible story, an incredible world, incredible characters. Sure, there are problems, not only with the author, but with the book. It's not perfect, but it really opened up the fantasy world to a younger generation of readers, and I'll be forever grateful for that. The wonderful wizarding world was a great place to escape to, along with Harry, Ron, and Hermione, to see whatever they were up to. And the characters, the story, the protagonists, the ones that they all mature alongside of the readers, of us, as we grew and as we aged. It's an incredible series. The first book is very, very YA. Actually, it's even middle grade literature. So it's a very easy read, a very quick read. But I would encourage you to move on with the series if you haven't yet, because it matures, it ages, and it doesn't end where it started. It really, really grows in all of the ways that you would hope one of these books could. But here, it starts off extraordinarily strong. those are the 5 that I ended up with. Which ones would you say that I didn't have on my list? Please let me know in the comments down below. I would love to dialogue with you there. I understand to have to narrow this list down to 5, especially this particular one. 5 modern fantasy novels. Modern fantasy is kind of my love, and that's my passion. That's what I enjoy reading most. It was really hard to narrow those down to just 5, but here's my best attempt at a list. Give me your list. I would love to see that in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for taking the time to watch and like this video and this series. If you haven't yet, click subscribe and join the Dragon Army, and we'll see you in the next one.